This stuff, gravel, is all the rage in the cycling world right now. And bikes like this, the Specialized S-Works Diverge, are designed to conquer it. I've always liked the Specialized Diverge, going back to 2014 when it was first launched. Back in those days when gravel and adventure was a new trend emerging from the US. And then fast forward to 2017 when the Mark II launched with some big features, some big improvements to make it even more capable for gravel riding. And you see my review linked above. And looking at that bike and then looking at this, the third generation Diverge, you can see a lot of changes. This bike has really evolved since that first bike in 2014 to meet the constantly moving goalposts of the gravel and adventure bike packing category. So a lot of change from the bike. A pretty awesome looking bike, I reckon. It really looks purposeful, really looks designed for going off-road and making the most of your imagination to take the path less travelled. So let's dive into some of the tech on this frame. And we'll start with tyre clearance, because that is what really matters with a gravel bike these days, and bigger is generally better. This bike will now take up to a 47mm wide tyre on these 700C rims. Or if you drop down to the fashionable 650B wheels, you can go up to a 53mm wide tyre or 2.1 inch. So plenty of options to run the tyre that you want for the size of gravel or dirt roads you're riding on. Increasing tyre clearance on a drop bar bike is no easy feat. Certain limitations to how wide you can go. So you've got a brand new fork at the front and brand new rear stays at the back. And instead of a elevated chainstay or a drop chainstay like we see on other bikes, like the Open Up or the Allied, to name a couple of examples, instead they developed a special flattened carbon fibre section about 3-4 inches in length behind the bottom bracket, which gives the clearance and the tyre you need, but maintain the stiffness and getting away from a raised or lowered chainstay. So it looks conventional, it looks really neat, and some impressive engineering and design has gone into this section, because you are really tight for space around here. You're trying to keep the Q factor as narrow as possible, trying to increase the tyre clearance. You can fit a 2x front mech if you want, so it's not 1x only like some bikes are going in the pursuit of tyre clearance. So some impressive packaging to get the big tyres and everything else fitting into the bike. So extra tyre clearance is good for off-road adventures, and for off-road and bike packing adventures. We've got lots of mounts for fitting bags and extras. So 2 bolts on the top tube, 2 bolts on the down tube, as well as the 2 bottle cage bolts, and a pair of bolts on the fork, so plenty of space for fitting bags. And then the real ace up the sleeve of this bike is what's in the down tube. If we open this hatch underneath the bottle cage, there is a SWAT storage, an idea ported over from the mountain bikes, where you can put this bag, which comes with the bike, and fit all your tools. So in there I've got a couple of inner tubes, a mini pump, CO2 canister, multi-tool, all the things I need to get me back up and running if I have a mechanical. And that's a really neat feature. Once you've used it, it's hard to go back. So for bike packing, you put all your tools in there and you get more space in your bags for food and clothing and so on. And then for normal gravel riding, you don't have a saddle bag dangling below your saddle. You don't have your pockets full of stuff that can eject when you're riding over rough ground. Everything's in there, it's out of the mud and rain, and it's there we need it, and it doesn't rattle inside. So it makes the most of this massive down tube, and it really is huge on this bike. A really neat idea, really neat implementation. We're seeing it on other bikes, Trek borrowing this idea as well, so I can't wait to see more manufacturers copy Specialized. Apparently, speaking of Specialized, it's not quite as simple as cutting a hole in the carbon down tube. You have to engineer the carbon fibre layup to ensure you have the structural rigidity you want in a down tube, and that isn't sacrificed or compromised by cutting a massive hole in a down tube, but a really neat feature. And then we have the signature feature on the Diverge, introduced on the last generation model and updated with this bike, and first seen on the Roubaix endurance bike, the bike designed for Paris-Roubaix and Tour of Flanders, where the cobbles are a big feature of those races. It's the Future Shock. This is the latest 2.0. So the concept is the same, a cartridge inside the head tube with a spring giving you that 20mm of suspension, but they're giving it rebound damping, so it's much smoother and more controlled over rough grounds and repeated hits, and there's a dial on the top for locking it out or opening up. So on the road you can firm it up, off road you can open it up, and that's something that more people wanted from the previous version, more control when it's active, when it's not active, and that's something you can now do. And it also looks much cleaner, got a smoother rubber boot, And some people I've ridden with have seen this bike and not even noticed the future shock. It's so discreet, done a nice job. In terms of reliability, I've had no problems on this bike, the previous generation bike, or the Specialized Roubaix, which I've also ridden with the same future shock. There were some well publicised issues with this in a pro race a couple of years ago where it failing, but since then it's won Paris-Roubaix on 2 occasions, and certainly looking at customer feedback, there don't seem to be any major issues, no recalls or anything, so it seems to be a reliable, durable system, and Specialized have done their homework and made sure it is up to the task of being ridden off-road. And reliability is a big buzzword for adventure bikes. You could be riding in the middle of the desert or the middle of the jungle, or wherever you're riding, you're far away from a bike shop, you don't want things to go wrong. So having a system that's reliable, not going to give you issues, is clearly something top of the list of priorities for an adventure bike. But we'll get into performance in a little moment, but let's flip the bike around and show you some other cool details on this bike. Turning the bike around, we can see some really well thought out features that show Specialized have done their homework. Firstly, there's an external threaded bottom bracket, which is a relief for people who hate press fit creaking issues. And we're seeing Specialized roll out threaded bottom brackets on all the bikes now, the Tarmac and the Roubaix as well, so that's a good move. And we've also got an external seat clamp, which is a nice thing to see. Now, internal seat clamps are clean looking when they're done well, but they can be fiddly and more prone to failure when you've got special clamps and wedges inside the seat post. So Specialized have kept it simple and gone for an external seat clamp. From this angle, you can really see the girth of that down tube. It is massive. And then we have really skinny rear stays, and we have dropped rear stays meeting the seat tube well below the seat clamp to give more compliance from the seat post, which you can see on this bike is an X-Fusion dropper post with a lever inside the drops. Now, a dropper post is the latest product to be imported from mountain bikes. On mountain bikes, dropper posts are pretty much commonplace on all but the raciest cross-country bikes. And in my experience, they are essential on a mountain bike when you're going downhill. Pushing the saddle out of the way gives you much more freedom to move the bike around, much more capability, and just makes it more fun. But as for dropper posts on a gravel bike, I'm yet to be convinced. I don't think the benefits are there in the same way they are on a mountain bike. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Is a dropper post the next evolution in unlocking the potential of a gravel bike, or a step too far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. The right clothing is really important at the time of year to keep you warm and dry on the bike. And that's a neat segue to the sponsor of today's video, Giro. Now, Giro have been making helmets since 1985, but more recently branched out into footwear and cycle clothing. And today I'm wearing the latest autumn winter clothing, starting at the top with a Syntax MIPS helmet. It's lightweight and well ventilated, and the Rocklock 5 retention system is really easy to adjust. There's also mitts for added crash protection, and the yellow gives you a nice bit of day glow on gloomy days. Then the Ambient 2 gloves, very day glow, but very, very toasty. Keep the wind out, keep the rain out, very warm, well insulated, and gel padded palm for comfort on the handlebars, and you can use your smartphone, so ideal for Instagramming. Then the jersey, a Chrono thermal long sleeve jersey, available in this very lovely orange or a more subdued black. It's made from a thermal Italian fabric to keep you warm, and DWR treatment to keep the rain out, and 3 expandable pockets at the back, so loads of space for all your food and essentials on a long winter ride. And then the Chrono thermal bib tights, again a thermal fabric for warmth, wind blocking material to keep the wind out, and a DWR treatment to keep the rain out. A really neat feature are the addition of 3 mesh pockets at the back, so you've got more space for food and essentials on long winter rides. You've got reflective details and a really nicely padded insert. And lastly, the Rincon mountain bike shoes. Really nice looking shoes these, and some really nice details. So you've got a single barrel dial on the top along with a Velcro strap, a durable, rugged construction, and added protection on the toe box, so ideal for off-road riding. The sole is just stiff enough for pedaling efficiency, but not so stiff you can't walk about, and a grippy rubber outsole so you can walk around without slipping over. If you like what you see here, I'll put links down below so you can go and check out more detail. But now, on with the review. When it comes to taking a Diverge off-road, my God, this bike is good. It's awesome off-road. It really is that good. It's fun, it's fast, and it's highly capable when you ride on gravel and dirt tracks. And it's easily living up to expectations set by the high price, build, and all the tech in this frame. And it's a big step forward from the last generation Diverge, so much better than that bike, and that bike was very impressive. You can chuck the bike into all sorts of corners and sketchy route infested trails, and it will look after you as much as a gravel bike can. The Future Shock, which seemed like a gimmick when it debuted on the previous Diverge, is the ace up this bike's sleeve. Simply put, it gives you more cushioning on rough trails, provides a smooth ride, and because you're not being jolted and jarred around, you remain in control much more. In terms of speed, this bike is right up there alongside two of my favourite fastest gravel bikes, the 3T Exploro and the Cervelo Espero. Those two bikes I've ridden in the past. You might well have seen my reviews on another website. Very fast gravel bikes, also fast on the road, and this bike is easily alongside those two bikes in terms of the raw speed. That's due to low weight, 8.7 kilograms for the size 56. Very stiff frame, massively oversized bottom bracket, down tube junction, so good power transfer, and of course these fast rolling tyres. So very fast bike, good gear range for getting up and down steep climbs. So on smooth trails and light gravel, the Diverge is easily as fast as a 3T and a Cervelo, but where it really draws ahead is on very rough gravel, roots and rocks and other obstacles, because the Future Shock is a real benefit to go fast over rough terrain. That 20mm might not sound like much, but it's enough to help filter out the vibrations and impacts that come through the front wheel and jolt and jar your upper body, throw the bike offline, gives you more control and more comfort, and lets you focus more on getting power through the pedals and carrying speed over rough terrain. Where two bikes are being bucked around, this bike gives you more control, keeps the front wheel on the ground, and it's just a nicer experience. So it really is a big benefit when you're riding off-road. And if I was buying a bike between the 3T Cervelo and this bike, because I want to ride fast, maybe do some events, but I also wanted a reasonably comfortable ride, a smooth ride, the Diverge would be my pick, because the Future Shock is not a gimmick, it really does give you much more capability off-road, smooth ride, faster ride, and with no downsides apart from maybe slightly odd looks. And I'm surprised more manufacturers aren't doing something along these lines. We're seeing suspension stems come back like the Redshift, but nothing in terms of this, packaging suspension into a frame without altering the stack height too massively or the geometry, but a really neat implementation on the bike. When you are riding your favourite off-road trails, it's not only the Future Shock giving you a benefit, it's also the geometry of the bike, which again takes a leaf out of the mountain bike range in terms of having a longer front centre with a shorter stem and longer rear chainstays. So you effectively have a longer bike, but with a short stem give you a nice handling. So when you're riding very steep terrain, you have more weight behind the front wheel, so you're not as pitched over the front wheel as you are on a more road-based geometry, and just gives you a much calmer, much more stable feel in those rowdy, rough corners. When on a normal bike you might be bucked off the saddle, this bike lets you carry more speed and carry more confidence into those sections where you can be challenged to get the bike down cleanly. So the geometry is a real asset, nice and calm at high speed, nice and stable, as I said. So the reach from the handlebar to the saddle is what you want it for a road stroke gravel bike, but you're benefiting from increased handling, so increased control off-road. It doesn't feel strange at all, it just feels really good when you are riding off-road. And when you're riding on the road, it just feels really nice. You can get in the drops, get nice and stretched out, nice aero position for smashing along at speed. So the geometry on the bike, not something you can see by looking at the bike, you need to look at the Giro chart, really is the key to the bike, giving you so much more capability off-road. Specialized isn't alone in looking to mountain bikes for inspiration with a long front centre and short stem idea, and it's something we're going to see a lot more on gravel bikes going forward as they continue to move away from the road bikes that they're originally loosely based on and more to their own set of geometry numbers that really give you the perfect balance of off-road potential without being a mountain bike, but still good on road. And that really shows how far gravel bikes have come in the last few years, giving us much more capability off-road and getting closer to a mountain bike in some respect, but retaining that versatility that makes these bikes so appealing for a wide range of uses, from road, gravel and everything in between. Let's talk about price and value for money, and I'll run through a spec in a moment. This range-topping S-Works bike costs £9,500. I'll just let that sink in for a moment. That is a real lottery winner's bike. Now, there are cheaper models. This platform, this carbon frame with the Future Shock and the SWAT storage starts from £3,600 with a Shimano GRX bike, which looks like a really appealing package. To get all the same technology, basically, slightly lower grade carbon fibre, but you're getting all the same fundamental performance and technology in a more price conscious package. The actual Diverge range starts at £1,000, but it's an aluminium frame, you don't get a future shock, no SWAT storage, but still a really good bike if you want more of a all-rounder, riding to work, a bit of road riding, but not quite as feature-packed, tech-laden as this off-road beast is. So £9,500, what do you get for your money? Well, with a weight, this size 56 weighs 8.7 kilograms, which is pretty impressive when you consider that Trek Domani I recently reviewed weighs 8.6 kilograms, but you got massive tyres, massive cassette, and all that off-road capability. All the components on this bike work extremely well. Now I'll start with a negative. I'm not really sold on a drop post on a gravel bike. I've ridden a few gravel bikes with drop posts, but where on a mountain bike I deem them essential for giving you more fun and capability in technical descent. On a gravel bike, I don't find them so useful. I think partly when you are riding a very steep track, you're in the drops, got a lot of weight over the front centre, and having the saddle down doesn't seem to make much difference. It doesn't unlock more capability in the bike. In fact, I feel really odd riding a bike with a saddle down, because I think when I'm riding a gravel bike off-road, I like to clamp the saddle between my thighs, use that to control the bike when I'm riding down steep trails. It's only on those really steep trails when you might have your bum over the back of the saddle touching the tyre could a drop post be a benefit. But most of the time, I don't find it a huge benefit, and I don't really use it all that often. If your terrain dictates it, you might find a drop post more useful. The compromise with a drop post, more weight, more complexity. You don't get as much compliance as you do from a carbon seat post, so less comfort, and you've got this annoying lever inside the drops, which I'm not really a fan of. So personally, I get rid of the drop post and fit a carbon seat post, save weight, more comfort, and get rid of this lever, which is really annoying. The group set is phenomenal on this bike, probably my favourite current group set. We have a SRAM wireless setup, combining a single ring red crankset with red shifters and a mountain bike Eagle Access rear mech and a massive 1050 cassette, giving a 500% range. So these gears give you all the capability you need to get up the steepest climbs, but still have plenty of range when you're going down the fast descents. Some of the gaps are bigger than you might want, depending on your preference for cadence. But if you're going off-road, where it's usually steeper, or adding extra weight to the bike when you need low gears, this is hard to beat. I've ridden this setup on several bikes, and I've done several events in Wales and in Italy with big mountain climbs, and I really enjoyed having that massive 52 sprocket. It really lets you spin up some of the steepest climbs, the roughest, most technical climbs in a way you just can't with more conventional group sets. The nice thing about this group set is there's one single battery to look after here on the rear mech, easy to remove with one hand, get a spare battery, put it in your bag, so for those multi-day epics, you'll be absolutely sorted. Much easier to look after than Shimano Di2. Expensive, mine really expensive. The cassette, rear mech, a lot of money. And until Campag came along with the Eccar, this was my benchmark group set. But I will do a comparison with this group set compared to Campag's 13-speed Eccar, which I got on a Diverge, which you might have seen linked above if you haven't on a similar bike. So comparison coming soon. But for now, this is one of the best group sets you can get if you can afford it. And then moving on to the wheels, we've got the Roval Terra CLX carbon fibre wheels. Nice shallow profile, wide internal width, a good platform for these Pathfinder Pro tyres. The wheels are excellent, nice lightweight carbon fibre wheels, very stiff, external nipple so easy to maintain. Hub so far proving reliable. And the tyre is a great fast rolling tyre, definitely emphasises the speed of this bike. With a good width, you run low pressures nicely, but you've got a very slick centre section. So on the road, this bike absolutely flies along. Then roll it over into corners, got a nice widely spaced shoulder block, give pretty good grip on damper, looser gravel. But for winter mud plugging here in the UK, you'll definitely want to swap these for something a little bit more aggressive, trading some of that rolling speed for a bit more grip if you're going off-road. So it depends on your ratio of road to off-road. But for help on choosing the right gravel tyre, check out my video linked above. I love the shape of this Eastern carbon fibre handlebar. Nice flare, not too extreme. It does cant the hoods over a little bit, which is not ideal, but a small price to pay for the increased control in the drops. I like how easy the future shock is to lock out and open, but to be honest, most of the time I leave it open. It just works really well, and it's nice and controlled due to that rebound damping. And then lastly, we have a power short nose saddle with carbon fibre rails to save a bit of weight. Nice comfy shape, one of my personal favourites at the moment. So that has been my review of the Specialized S-Works Diverge. A stunning bike, awesome off-road capability, but a pretty hefty price tag. But there are cheaper models available. That £3,600 bike looks like the steal of the range, but an impressive package if you can afford it. In terms of where it fits with the gravel bike category, it's right up there alongside some of the best and fastest gravel bikes, like I mentioned earlier, the 3T Explorer, Cervelo, Espero. But I love some of the features on the bike. Down tube storage, the future shock, the technology like here. It might seem gimmicky perhaps, but when you use it, it really works well, gives the bike so much more capability and gives you much more enjoyment of riding a bike like this off-road and on-road. And it's a really exciting development in the short EV of the gravel bike category. So it's clear I like it, but I don't think it's just because it's £9,500. I'd have had much fun on the cheaper £3,600 bike, I'm sure, all the same technology, just a slightly heavier weight, a more affordable group set and so on. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section what you think of this bike. Would you buy it? Is it a bike on your short list this year if you're in the market for a gravel bike? But that's been my review of the Specialized S-Works Diverge. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed watching it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes stuff from all the bikes I'm testing at the moment. And I'll see you all again next time. Thank you for watching.